Well, it's very sad. My dogs are at the pound, about half of them.
So you had how many dogs?
There were 40. We had done the right thing by them. We had a couple of girls that got pregnant, that we didn't, they were young, hadn't had them fixed, and we didn't just drop them off at the pound. That would have been the easy thing to do. We spent time chasing them. We fixed the fence over and over and over. If I had had any idea they would or could just come in and take my dogs, I would never have dropped my cases. I filed cases raising the constitutional problems with this 5-dog limit as ex post facto, because I had more than 5 when it was passed, and was assured by the courts that they could not do this without due process. They went in to seize evidence that I had more than 5 dogs. Everyone knows this. Judge Lane has asked me if I was late for court. Counselor, were your dogs loose again? Yes, Your Honor, they were loose. For 3 years, they've been getting out. They stay out maybe 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. After a time or two, people see they're not so unharmful. Mm-hmm. They, even if in a group, if someone walks up to them, even non-aggressively, they run. They're scared. They're not dogs that run up to people.
What was the issue with being able to keep them in? How come you weren't able to keep them in?
Well, they would dig under the fence, and we were working on it, but we were caught in a trick bag where we have this ordinance, and we don't know what they're doing, and we don't want to put $15,000 into a fence, so we tried to fix it as best we could. But we never were told, if you don't bring your numbers down to 5, we are going to come and take them, ever. In 3 years. They came around. Some of them, 2 of them were actually on the surface very, very nice. But it had started with this one officer who charged me with cruelty to my horses. Mm-hmm. And one of those horses, the horse that died, was not even mine. He was a horse that I bought as a present to my boyfriend. It was his first horse. Mm-hmm. There's no way I was cruel to that horse.
Why did the horse die?
He was old. I bought him from a trader. We'd had a lot of problems from the very jump. We'd spent thousands of dollars in several different vets trying to get him right. He had ear mites when we got him. Larry was climbing up on the corral gate to put oil on his ears. We got that fixed. He had problems with his feet, problems with his knees. Mm-hmm. Beautiful horse, tall. They called him too tall. Not too tall. What was it? Hightower, something like that.
So now the animals have been taken, and now they're in protective custody pending a case?
Well, I filed immediately to quash the warrant because they could not have gotten this without a hearing for me as a forfeiture to comply with the ordinance. They went in and claimed they needed them as evidence of my lack of compliance. Well, I've admitted this. I've admitted it in my court filings. Mm-hmm. Another case that I had filed and not served was because 2 of my constitutional issues were that by asking for a kennel license or a breeder's license, you had to accept a search. It wasn't because my house is dirty, as somebody tried to allege. It was simply because a man's home and his castle under the Constitution. Thomas Jefferson didn't put the Fourth Amendment in place because people have dirty houses. It's your castle. You're not supposed to have to let the state come in. And
so
I found that violative. Yeah, go on.
There was a negotiation happening with you guys?
Yes, that's the other crazy thing. I'd been called into the DA's office. Again, no threat to take the dogs. He said that if I didn't start reducing the numbers, they would declare it a nuisance and take my home. He never said he could come in and lie and say they needed the dogs as evidence.
Well, so with this new law, the animal control has said that, 5 animals, you can only have so many that are neutered or spayed, but they don't come in and check for people's animals unless there's some complaints. People have been complaining,
that's
right?
What they told me. No, people have been complaining, 2 people. Mm-hmm. In the stack of 150 pages, there's only a handful of complaints from anyone other than this guy, Terry Saylor, who's the egg cook at the Nugget. Tell him I want my eggs over easy.
They said that you attempted to let the dogs out when the animal control showed up.
Oh, on Basin? Yes, I did. I was not going to let them take my dogs. I did not get due process, and I was not going to help them take my dogs and possibly kill them. I did everything I could to see that they got.
Where you guys go now from this point?
We're out of here. We're just going to move.
You're going to move. And then are you going to be able to get the dogs back? Do you know?
Hopefully, once we have ourselves situated in a new location and can tell them that we have a place to take them and get out of the county, we'll get them back. And if the judge does properly, quashes the warrant and gives them back on, when there's a hearing, I filed immediately in justice court, and they gave the DA time to respond, even though I got no time to respond. They just came. And they had done this after a week and a half of negotiations where they told me, first they told me I had to voluntarily turn them in on the 19th. Well, I wouldn't do that. I said, I can't do that. You won't promise me you're not going to kill them. I'm not turning them in. Well, unbeknownst to me, they told some of the neighbors that I was going to do this. And I don't know if they'd have had media there, but I did say I would work with a rescue. And I'd met with Lorraine Harper at length on that Saturday. I'd spoken to her all day on Sunday. She was going out of town. I was all ready to start giving her dogs and sending her pictures and let her help me place them. And suddenly, out of the blue, they come in with this battalion. I mean, I've represented militiamen with weapons of mass destruction cases. I'm sure you remember, back in the day, when they indicted a bunch of militiamen trying to say they were, making bombs and stuff. And I've never seen this much artillery. 20 animal control trucks over me. A 62-year-old, rather frail woman gets 20 trucks to try to catch loose dogs.
So how many dogs do you have now at your property, and are you going to reduce the numbers? Are you hoping to just get them back and then?
They left 6, but at this point they're so traumatized, I don't know that we want to try to rehome any of them. I think we'll just take them with us and go. I don't think we can put a dog through the trauma of going into it. Now, if people we know, like, a neighbor wants one, if you know of someone that wants a dog, there certainly are some available for rehoming. But it would have to be someone who's really committed to either take that dog through whatever trauma, get them over the trauma, or give them back. That's what I said about, to Mr. Kunzi and Mr. Payne, that if they promised me if a rehoming didn't work out, they'd give them back and not kill them, and they wouldn't do that. And I'm not going to risk these wonderful, wonderful dogs. None of them are in any dangers. Even when they were getting out all the time, they'd get out for 20 minutes, we'd bring them back. No one has ever come to me with so much as a scratch on a person or a pet, with so much as $1 worth of property damage, with a rose bush overturned, nothing. Even Levi Gregory, who I called myself, because the dogs got out one day just when the kids were lining up for the school bus. And I said, Levi, I know, I'm telling on myself here, but I'm very concerned because I've got a lot of them loose, and there are children waiting for a bus. And he came out, and he is chasing them with me. And they like to go, there's an area where there's just an empty field between Peckstein and Mesquite, and Blagg and 160, where there really is nothing there. And he says all they want to do is get to an open area and chase rabbits. And when you see them, they were so happy. They were just running around in a group, just chasing rabbits. That's all they wanted to do. They never harmed anybody. It's not fair to leave them in the pound and possibly have them killed if we can't. They try to say we owe fees or something. I'm just terrified, Deanna. And I really thank you for the opportunity to get our side of the story out.